And just like that, it was 9 o'clock. I've been sitting here at my computer for the last 20 minutes, just looking at stuff, waiting for the clock to tick by so I could throw this graphic up a couple of minutes before 9 o'clock. And the next thing I know, I look up, it's after 9 o'clock. So we're only 1 minute after. So we go live on the radio station in 2 minutes. So everybody, welcome to the pre-show. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of the program. And I think we are all set. Testing 1, 2. It looks like it. I just want to check my settings because something looked a little off there. Testing 1, 2. Yep, there we are. Speaker is good. Default internal. Built in. I should put USB. I wonder if that had something important. Turn off. I don't know what that just said. I am wondering if that's why. That's a setting we hadn't seen for bringing in external microphones. We'll have to give that a test. Jason, welcome to the program. Have you 5x5? Fantastic. Good to hear. Good that you can hear. And 9:02:07, we're less than a minute away from radio time. So we're going to, this is default internal speakers, USB audio codec. I think that might be our issue. We're doing radio. So we'll find out next time we get in here. I'll be on with Wendy tomorrow for Roberts and Robertson. We're actually going to make it back in tomorrow. So we've got about 20 seconds. We go live on the radio. So I'm going to remove this baby like that. And I'm going to take us down. And we will be going dark. Be back in a few seconds. Sit tight.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid Radio Program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program. Happy Monday evening. This is Scotty Roberts, your host. This is my show, the Intrepid Radio Program, right here on the Odyssey Radio Network. That's ODYSY radio.com. You can go on over and listen to the audio version of this program. It's audio only because, folks, it's radio. Or you can come on over and join us in the video simulcast over on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. And, of course, there you can join the chat room. And a marvelous chat room as it is. Everybody over there, give yourselves a pat on the back and say, that's us, the chat room. We're here. And so, folks, come on over and join the chat room if you want to engage in discussion about tonight's topic, or if you just want to talk with everybody else and meet everybody else. The Intrepid family. So come on over and join them over on YouTube, youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. And that's where you can find the broadcast simulcast of this show. Greetings to everybody there. I just saw Sarah Youssef pop in, and Randall Flagg and Claudette. Good to see you. Cordia, good to see you. Leslie Holker is here. Good to see you, Leslie. And Randall, did I say Randall already? Scott Allen is here. Jason is here. And Elvis is in the building. He was the first one here today. So good to see you, Elvis. Glad that you come out of retirement to join us, and obscurity and ghostiness. And Michael is here. Good to see you as well. And people keep streaming in. Come on in. And we'll hopefully for the next hour regale you with something that's useful, something you can converse about over in the chat room. And then stick around after the show ends over on the radio, and we'll go into the captain's cabin, which every night is a little informal version of the show where we can discuss more. And oh, look, there's still ice in that, so it's still good. It's these mugs. Rainey does up these tumblers, but they're these metal tumblers, and you put ice and water in that, and tomorrow morning I'll still find this with ice floating in it. They're great. They're insulated, and then coffee's the same. It's still warm. If I put a lid on it, it stays warm. It's kind of cool. See that? So let me take a drink. A little dry today, a little dry. And so, and I will admit to something, I am cold. It's cold down here, and it's not even the dead of winter yet. It's not even winter yet, frankly. But we are now going from where we had 70s just a few days ago up here and sunshine and nice autumn to the next few days. We're dropping, and by Thanksgiving Day, which is 3 days from now, it's going to be 25 is what they're predicting as the high temperature. Jason, I know you are out there on the plains of Dakota. I can't remember if you're South Dakota or North Dakota, but you're probably already getting some of that cold, breezy weather out there. They're not talking about storms, so hopefully we don't have a snowstorm or anything like that yet, but it's going to get cold, and it's cold down here tonight. So I'm all zipped up. I've got my winter woolly sweater on, and so which I need a new one of. We'll have to see. This thing's about 6 years old, and now I have some things. You have some things that are old like that? I got a couple of pieces of clothing that are old. Leslie says, "Oh, Scotty, don't tell me that. I refuse to look ahead at the weather. I don't want to know. So don't listen to that. Don't listen to what I said, Leslie." That's Fahrenheit, folks. Yep, that's it, Fahrenheit. It was 50 today, which was kind of cool, says Jason. Now, our weather all comes from Jason out there in the Dakotas. So it comes here in the next couple of days. My guess, Jason, is it's going to get a little cold for you tomorrow. So it's just a guess because it's coming this way. How long is it when old stuff turns vintage? That's a good question. I don't think this is a vintage sweater yet. It's this big, loose, those of you looking, this big, loose, boxy sweater. The one problem I've seen with it, and you can see if you look really close, is almost from the first time I laundered the thing, it hangs on to lint. And so there might be 6-year-old lint on this sweater for all I know. I don't know how to get rid of it. You get the rollers and you roller it off, and it just it's the kind of fabric it is. So, but it's comfortable. So sitting on the radio, it kind of blots that out sometimes. I've got one blanket that I've talked about. I've even worn it wrapped around myself on this show. It's a big California king-sized blanket, and it's the brand Woolrich, and I got it at Target, I think 22 years ago. It was just before I met Rainey, and I had that blanket. It's the light brown suede on the top, and then the underside is the faux wool pile lining and kind of a tan color. And I've had that blanket for years. That's the one in my story that was pulled off of Rainey and I one night in the middle of the night at 4:44 in the morning, yanked off of us. And I grabbed it and pulled it back up. And that was back, we weren't married yet. And so it had to be 2006, early 2006. So that's the same blanket that's on the bed. So, and we use it as an extra blanket now. So, but it's nice to wrap up in. It's warm. It's not threadbare. It's fantastic. I love it. So kudos to Woolrich for the great blanket. And so I was going to talk tonight a little bit about being lonely. Are any of you lonely in life? Lonely even in relationships? Lonely even if you're surrounded by people? I think I'm going to pick that topic up and talk about it on Wednesday because tonight I switched gears just a little bit. But think about that, about what it means to be lonely. Sometimes it's okay to be lonely, a temporal loneliness. There was this song by a Christian songwriter. He said, "It's good to be lonely every now and again, to be parted from the ones you adore, to sit at a table for two all alone and take a look at the world around you, at people who have no one to go home to, and some with no place to belong, others consumed by their weakness, and another when weak seems so strong." And that song goes on. So I'm not talking about the kind of loneliness that's okay every now and then. It's okay to be alone every now and then. Sometimes I love being alone here. It's nice to not have four other people. My wife isn't as bad, but three other kids and my wife all clamoring for attention and making noise and fighting and arguing and having fun and watching TV, pounding on the floors, whatever. It's nice to have it quiet every now and then. But there's a difference, as Lizzie said, between feeling lonely and feeling alone. And so think about that a little bit. Yeah, Elvis can fix it. Are you lonesome tonight? So thank you for that, Randall Flagg. And so, Leslie, you're right. But Wednesday, we're going to talk about that. I had the topic and I was going with it, and I went pretty deep into it. I got pretty deep into researching social media and how that's made a lot of people lonely these days. And we'll talk about that on Wednesday. Think about it. But for tonight, I shifted gears a little bit because we never really did talk about our topic on Friday, which was prayer and meditation. And so I wanted to hit it up and gave the title just a little different angle, Beseeching the Divine. Does it mean anything? Is it worth doing? Is anybody out there? Hello? Hello? Is anyone there? That's the way we feel with our prayers sometimes. And Sarah, you're right. It's disconnection you're talking about. And we'll talk about that even more on Wednesday. But what about this beseeching God for things? And the reason that came back up, I'll give you a quick update on Misu, Brother Ruben, Fast Horse. And I did talk with Susie a bit this morning via text message. And she said there was some good news in that it seemed like he was doing better. He was awake. He was awake. He said a few words. And remember, where we left Ruben last week, the last we had heard, was that he had been non-responsive for close to 2 weeks. He had been intubated, and he was... excuse me a second. Do you need that for something?
Yes.
Don't leave it upstairs. Bring it back down when you're done. Thank you. Mild familial interruption there from the child. But he was not doing well. He was non-responsive. They said his right side was paralyzed. And so everything was not working well. And it was looking pretty bleak. Then Susie told me today that he was awake, said a few words. He recognized Susie, but he couldn't remember her name. He couldn't say her name. And she didn't quite know what that meant. If he just couldn't speak it or just didn't know it, but he recognized her face, which is a good thing. And then they said, Susie said, she wrote me a little bit later and said there's a bit of a downturn. She said they have to take him back in for, there was more blood on the right side of his brain. And so they had to take him in to relieve blood from the right side of his brain today. And I have not heard back about that since. And they also said that he had some feeling on his right where he'd been totally paralyzed. So that is good developments mixed with, I suppose, something that's good. It's supposed to relieve that blood pressure on the brain. and hopefully he'll be fine. What's the word I'm looking for? Not fine is not what I'm trying to say. Hopefully he'll do well with that. It'll do something more good. And they had said early on that if he survived, that he would probably need special care the rest of his life. So we'll see what goes on. And Susie also said that Ruben's sister came from South Dakota I can't remember if they're off the reservation or on the reservation, but they came to get him. She and her boyfriend and her boyfriend's daughter, and they're all kind of living at Susie and Ruben's place right now. And Susie says it's really hard having the three people here because, she's got some ailments of her own. But one of the sad things for her is that she has no say in what happens to Ruben because they're not married. And I don't think they've ever filed a common law thing legally. So all legal decisions have to be made by somebody who has that ability. So, yeah, I think there's some improvement, Sarah. We're not sure yet. Just the fact that he was talking, even though he couldn't say her name, even though he did recognize her. And this and all with all the weight he's lost and the condition he's in and so on. So hopefully, keep saying a prayer for him. And so as I update you with that, I ask about the efficacy of prayer again. As you all know, and I don't want to be a broken record on my show, but for those of you who have not heard this, you all know that I am somebody who has struggled with issues of faith in recent years, even though I started off with a very strong faith. And I was in ministry, as you all know. I ministered to people who were struggling with their faith. And for me, I questioned things. I had questions about certain passages in the Bible, and then I started looking into them, and it led to other things, and I had question. And then, thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. She says, I have been and will keep doing. I question who God is, what he is, what form he's in, who he really is. Is he the God of Islam? Is he the God of Judaism? Is he the God of Christianity? Is he an Abrahamic God at all? Does he have anything to do with those other than what men have written about him? Him, it, her, he, they, God. It's like going down a rabbit hole, says Sarah, and it certainly is. And so while I struggle with all of that, I have also struggled when I want to. Yeah, short answer is yes. All of the above. So, hey, Steph, welcome to the program. John Piper, good to see you. Researching divinity for a book. Divinity is a human construct that tries to define the nature of gods or God, says John. John, I'm very interested in that book, by the way. And who is God compared to who we've made God to be? To fit? Do we fit into God's image, or do we make God fit our image of who we think God is supposed to be? There are things I read in Scripture, Old Testament Scripture especially, where I look at things and I go, wow, that doesn't sound like an all-knowing, all-loving, all-caring, all-holy God, creator of the universe. That sounds like what these men would have done, and they put those attributes onto God. So I struggle with a lot of that and say, how much of Scripture then, how much of mandate of Scripture, how much of theology in Scripture is something then that is applicable for us? If all the big stuff can be questioned, what about all the little stuff? It sounds at times it's trying to put boundaries to the unboundless. Yeah, great paradox. And so that brings up for me the question of prayer. And I've talked too many times to have to repeat it again, but about things about prayer that has bothered me about prayer. And is prayer something that we do because it's efficacious, or something we do because it makes us feel good? And some people will say, like Sarah just said, the simple answer is yes. It's all of the above. And so I often say, I used to say a lot, I'm going to pray for that person, or I'll pray for you, or I'll say a prayer. And you notice a lot of the times where we talk about prayer, it's not about greater esoteric things about prayer. I'm going to pray to God to strengthen me for who I am, to make me better than I am, to help me fight my greatest enemy, myself. All of those things in Reuben's prayer. But we always seem to talk about prayer when we need something from God. We want God to intercede for us. We want God to step in and be the God of creation, who has the power and the ability and the majesty to step in and change things. Yet so many times we see that God isn't a God that changes anything. And um, and on the rare chances that he does, we go, there, see, God answers prayer. But most of the time we pray, and what does it do? It draws us closer to God. It draws the community closer together. But does it really do anything to affect the thing that you're requesting? Why does prayer always seem to take on this form of a request of God? As I've called it, the prayer is the lucky rabbit's foot for Christianity and for Jews and for maybe Islam as well. Sarah says prayer has multiple functions in that you have physical actions, mental focus, spiritual touch of intervention. Yeah, we do. And yet the efficacy maybe goes only that far. It's us having physical action, us focusing our minds. So I would ask, many times I would say, I stopped saying I'm going to pray for, sure, I'll pray for you on that. Yeah, I'll remember you in my prayers. I say, well, I'm going to meditate on that. I'm going to put you in my thoughts and in my heart and in my intentions. And when we do that, is that the same as praying? And so I wanted to find out, and something I was going to offer up last week, and we talked the whole hour about Reuben and what I had just learned Friday morning was going on with him, is that meditation versus prayer. Is there really a diff? What's the diff between the two? And both meditation and prayer inspire us to dig deeper into the present moment and reflect on what really matters, even if it's a request to help somebody out or to help yourself out. After a meditation session or primary religious practice, you're likely going to feel this positive attitude, such as an attitude of gratitude, as we used to say, which renews your perspective on life. However, meditation and prayer are still very distinct practices that differ greatly from one another, even though they involve some of the same actions and some of the same cognitive effort. And so I've got some things I want to go through here to talk about the differences between the two. John Piper says, what kind of prayer? Prayers of petition, prayers of meditation, the liturgy of the hours done by some monks. And so, yes, there are different forms of prayer. John, last week on Friday, you said there are 4 different kinds of monastic prayer. Is that some of them right there that you mentioned? Prayers of petition, meditation, liturgy, hours, and liturgy of the hours, or liturgy and hours being 2 different things? Because I've never been in part of a monastic order. And hey, Barbie D, welcome to the program. And so what's meditation first? Let's look at that one first. What is it? Meditation is a practice, and we've talked about meditation on this show before. What do you do to meditate? How do you set yourself some time to get away and to do some meditation? It's a practice that encourages us to take this deep breath repeatedly and focus on the present. Meditation requires us to spend time living in the moment, focusing on our breathing, focusing on and clearing our minds of other things. It's a mindfulness meditation, allows you to become more mindful during practice. But the goal is to help encourage more mindful living. It's opening up. It's living in the now. Remember, we used to say that an awful lot on this show. It's living in the now. It's being awake in the now and knowing that you're awake. It's different than being woke. And meditation is something that helps you figure that out and see that. And the more you meditate, the better equipped you become to be mindful during difficult conversations, difficult times, stressful moments, problems like we're seeing with Ruben. And we all have stuff like what's going on with Ruben right now in our lives. Everybody's got somebody somewhere to one degree or of severity or another. There are things that we ask for prayer for, even if it's just for ourselves. Pray for me that I do better. Think of me when you pray. I used to say to people when I was still early on in the way my mind's been evolving or devolving over the last 30 years, I would stop saying, "Hey, will you pray for me in this thing?" I would say, "Hey, when you pray, if I cross your mind, you offer up a little prayer for me. If for any reason during the day or the week I cross your mind, I come into your mind, there's a reason for that. Say a prayer for me." I do that. I've gotten into the habit of doing that for my friends. If say I think of Sarah over in the chat room there, if she crosses my mind for any reason, I might offer up just a little tidbit of a prayer, a little 2-second prayer. Same with everybody else in our chat room. People who I think of that I have conversations with. You cross my mind, I'll offer up a little something. And not because what I offer is great, but because you've crossed my mind. And I figure there's a reason you've crossed my mind. So what is prayer then? It's different than meditation. Prayer, it's a religious act. You do it to connect with your higher power, with God. Every religion has its own prayer and its own higher power that they worship. In Islam, it's Allah. For Christians, it's God or Jesus. For the role of faith and hope comes into play in our prayers. For instance, prayer often seeks a desire for something in the future. You notice that? That's the common theme of prayers, a desire for something in the future. We're rarely praying for the here and the now. We're praying for us to be better in the future, us to avoid tragedy in the future, us to heal this person in the future, or whatever it might be. So it might be that we survive a difficult moment, that we recover from illness, or that someone out there's listening to your needs so that they could be met. So overall, between prayer and meditation, there are some basic differences, and I got a whole bunch of them here. I got a number of them. Is it 10 or 15? Let me double check. I got 10. It's another list. What's the difference between prayer and meditation? Fantastic, Elvis. I knew you might. And I grabbed that line from the kids' book, and I've read it on this show before, The Dark. Is it sitting over here? I used to have it sitting right over there. I might have moved it somewhere. But The Dark. It's where the little boy's afraid of the dark. And the dark he finds is a real living thing. And he's down in the basement. And, hello, Dark. Hi, Dark, says the little boy. But he goes down. His night light goes out. He takes a flashlight. And the Dark said, "You'll find me down here in the basement, in the dark." And he tells the little boy, as he comes downstairs, he says, it's a chest of drawers in the corner, and it's slightly open, and it looks like it has a smile and two eyes for the knobs on the top drawer. And the dark says bottom drawer behind the whatevers. And there's a little light bulb for him to take and put in his nightlight. That's where that came from. So, and by the way, I just saw Matthew Sainsbury, since it's my dad's birthday is next month. I spent some time singing songs from his devotional songbook. Did a little prayer. Sometimes I have big questions about God since what I've been dealing with. I get that. We all do. And but my little girl's birthday was today. Rowan turned 12 today. So if you're on Facebook and you see my family over there, Rowan has a Facebook. It's kind of blocked off to most adults, but you can go over and say happy birthday to her if you think of that. So number 1 out of the 10 things, we got about 23 minutes to do this, to go through these 10 points. Number 1, the difference between meditation and prayer. The first one is who you connect with. Who you connect with. There's a crucial difference between meditation and prayer, and that's who you connect with during your practice. Prayer involves you in connecting with a higher divine power, God, Allah, or a god or a goddess. But meditation requires you to connect with yourself. So in religion, you might seek the support of the universe to help you solve your problems. The universe being, i.e., God or gods or whatever. The universe being an easier way to encompass all of them. That's what we do in religion. Helps you solve your problems. In a mindfulness, meditative practice, you're going to be clearing your mind so that you can solve your problems yourself. So it's not that saying one is better than the other, because we put all this emphasis on self. Oh, I can do that myself rather than go to God. But is that what God wants us to do? He wants us to throw all our cares on him according to Scripture, but at the same time wants us to act on what we know. Or as I say to my kids sometimes, act like you know something. Act like you know something. And you think God ever looks at us when we pray and says sometimes, hey, act like you know something. So, because you do. And so meditation is what sets us apart to look inward, to try to solve the problems by acting like we know something. And it's also almost this way to seek an epiphany or a moment of clarity to help us resolve our situations when we meditate. And ultimately in prayer, the person you hope to receive guidance and healing is outside of yourself. And it's spiritual in nature. It's an external that's being given to you, that's being done for you, an intervening deity. And in meditation, it's you who will get yourself through it all. So that is not because of the emphasis, again, on empowering self. We're not saying that one is better than the other. We're saying that's one of the basic differences. Difference between meditation and prayer is who you connect with. Are you connecting with God to help? Or are you connecting with self to act like you know something? Need a drink. You know, I like tomato soup. I like it, even like it cold with over ice with a celery stick and some vodka. That's not what this is. Doesn't a peppery Bloody Mary sound good every now and then? Anybody not like Bloody Marys? I don't drink them all the time. It's a breakfast drink. No, but a Bloody Mary would be good right now. Something peppery and tomatoey with vodka in it. Yeah. Number 2, mental health benefits. There's differences in meditation and prayer. Number 2, mental health benefits. Yeah, needs chips and salsa too. I agree. Delaney Pearl Jones is here. Rudy the Dog is here. Welcome to the program, guys. So, Christian prayer and meditation both help you reduce stress and helps you find inner peace, right? Yeah, it helps you seek wisdom, whether from outside or inside. And however, the biggest difference in mental health benefits comes from prayer. Often people turn to prayer in moments of chaos or turmoil or helplessness. And for Christians, hope plays a big role in overcoming obstacles and life challenges. Meditation doesn't give you hope in the same way that prayer can. In prayer, we might believe in someone who's going to be listening to us and help us overcome or help someone else overcome illness or tragedy. And in meditation, you're more likely to accept someone's illness and the state of death is a natural part of life. So you can let go and allow nature to run its course, right? Meditation is more about acceptance, going internal, while prayer is about going external and hoping for help, reaching out for it. So they both play a role in our minds being able to process difficult moments in life. And they only do it differently. That's all. And neither one is better than the other. They're just one of the differences that we experience in life. John Piper says Templeton Institute study shows that prayer helps with healing. There you go. You're reaching out. Is it the reaching out factor, or is it the meditative part of prayer that helps with healing? It's interesting. Rudy Dog, Scotch and cookies. He says, yes, I remember those days fondly. I'd like to do that again. Randall Flagg says beer or whiskey. There you go. John Piper, Oratio, communal prayer is also known as the divine office or the liturgy of the hours. Gotcha. See, I don't know that because I'm not Catholic. So I don't know all of those. Number 3, difference between the two, a unique intention. When comparing prayer versus meditation, their intentions are unique from one another. Prayer in the Bible or the Quran, they help guide you through life's journey. The spiritual intention is about being able to praise your divine God, thank your divine God for the life you've been given, the wisdom you've received, the past leading up to your moment in history, and an understanding of your role in society to better the world. Meditating is more about a stillness of the mind, where you bring awareness of your actions and behaviors. It's about getting out of your head and into the world, living with kindness, with empathy. Meditating is about making people more mindful of their actions, whereas prayer is about being grateful to the universe's creator. Ever think of that? When you pray, what did Jesus say to his disciples? When you pray, remember the Lord's Prayer? He wasn't saying, and this is what you must say every day. No, he didn't say that. He says, when you pray, pray in this fashion. Pray like this. And he went, it kind of goes like this. Our Father who's in heaven, hallowed is your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And that's step 1, praising God for who he is. And then he said, step 2, give us this day our daily bread. And I'm reciting it weirdly, so now I can't remember it. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. There's something I missed in the middle there. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. So he said, in this method, in this model I'm giving you, this skeletal framework, this is how you ought to pray. And I think it's probably okay to recite that prayer, but I don't think that's what God meant or Jesus meant when he said, this is what you ought to pray. Pray like this every day. Include these elements in your prayers. So number 4 is how it's vocalized. The prayer is typically vocalized by talking out loud to a spiritual source, if you will. Although you don't have to. You can pray in your head. You can pray in quiet. You speak out loud because you're speaking directly to someone listening to your words. And your prayers are the part of your day where you communicate with a higher power. And for some religions, you'll pray once or twice a day or 5 times a day, such as in the morning or evening. Islam, you pray 5 times each day. So meditation, on the converse, is typically practiced quietly. Now, I thought it was interesting that Jesus also said, when he talked about prayer once, he was talking to the scribes and the Pharisees and the hypocrites. And he said, you go out in the open in the marketplace and you put your hands up and you pray out loud so all the people can see you praying. And he says, you're not elevating God, you're elevating yourself. And Jesus said, when you pray, go into your closet and kneel before God. He wasn't commanding you have to pray in a closet on your knees. He was just saying, do it quietly. It's between you and God. It's not for the marketplace to see. You ever been in a church where they call on people to pray sometimes? And brother Bill, will you lead us in prayer this morning? And Bill stands up and he says, our Father who art in heaven. He doesn't cite the Lord's Prayer. He goes, dear Father, Lord God, we come into your presence this morning and we bring thankful hearts. Or you ever had that happen where you're at somebody's house after church or something, and they have dinner and they ask you to pray. Will you say the prayer for us? Father, a prayer for me for food is, Father God, thank you for this food and the hands that prepared it. And bless us this day. In your name, amen. And I've had some prayers where they go on for 5 minutes. Somebody's praying for his old war buddies and the guy at work and all that. And Father God, as the food grows cold at the table, may we ask you for your blessing on this household. We lift our eyes, and as the broad fields now repose from the labors of the waning year, we ask you to, in your goodness and your kindness, and blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, the mashed potatoes become ice cold. So, for some religions, you pray out loud. The prayer is more out loud. It's to somebody else. You're conversing. Now, you're going to notice, though, that you quietly focus on the present moment when you meditate. Your body, during a body scan meditation, shows that tightness is in your body. However, you'll never speak out loud during a practice. Yet you might follow along to a meditation app like Declutter the Mind or something like that, and where a guide speaks during your practice to help you maintain your focus as you meditate. So you quietly focus. No words need to be spoken aloud. You're not speaking to anybody. Dealing with self. Number 5, prayer and meditation different with how you reflect. Prayer and meditation both cause you to reflect on your lives. But there's a difference in how they do so. In prayer, you reflect on your actions so that you can earn a good eternal life in heaven and avoid the abyss of hell. Now, I will have to say, that's not in every denomination. Some denominations think you need to pray to earn a place in heaven, earn a good eternal life, and avoid hell. Other religions say it's not your prayers that do that. It's not any action we take on that wins us salvific favor with God. And this is one of the places where, without casting any aspersions or offending anybody's religious sensibilities or spiritual sensibilities, we used to, in the church I was in, evangelical church, we would say that I don't need to do any work to win me salvation. Let that sink in for a second. I don't need that. I don't need to do that. It's not necessary. Because if I could do something that earns salvation for me, then why would Jesus had to have died in my place? I could do it myself, right? This is the way we thought in the sect of Christianity that I belong to, evangelicalism. It's that you are saved by grace through faith, not of yourselves, as the scripture says. It's a free gift of God, not of works, lest any person should be able to boast about what he's got. It's a free gift. It's something that's given. So prayer isn't necessarily something that helps you earn salvation. It's something that helps you work on sanctification, which is a whole thing I wasn't even going to talk about tonight. Just came into my mind. We'll talk about it another time. Sanctification, the process of becoming holy. God has made you holy when you became a Christian or became a believer or a follower. But there is a process of being sanctified that takes the rest of your life. And I see John's got some interesting stuff here. He says there was a blind study where when the prayers were for anonymous patients, half of the, let's see, it just jumped on me, half of the cancer patients prayed for, and the other half were not prayed for. Both the control group and the sample group, you're being distracting back there. Please don't do that. And the sample group did not know that they were being prayed over. And the sample group who were being prayed for suffered less side effects than those in the control. See, that's interesting. Hey, Ellie, I told you you're being distracting back there. What do you need? I am doing a radio show. What do you need? Anything? Or just come down to visit? Came down to visit, come and visit and sit with me. Okay, so that's so prayer. You might pray to seek forgiveness on wrongdoings. Hey, don't jump around back there, okay? Because I'm doing a show and you're broadcasting on the screen when you do that.
So they have something to watch while they listen.
Yeah, but they don't need to watch you do cheerleading while I'm talking.
But it's exciting for them.
Yeah, it's exciting for you, I think.
Yeah.
So you can come and sit here and be quiet.
They need something to watch while they listen.
Yep, okay, you can go now. Here's your phone. You're not listening.
You're taking away their
I love you. See you later. Good night. Bye. According to Ellie, I've just taken away your entertainment now for the night. All right. Where was I? And meditating is different in the sense that you might meditate to keep focusing on being mindful in the present moment instead of getting caught up in your mind. You're more likely to accept your wrongdoings and make better decisions in the present because you're thinking about, why did I do that? How can I do better? Prayer is different. You're asking for forgiveness for something that you've done wrong. Meditation will help you understand how to not do that again. So instead of repeatedly punishing yourself for the past without any new action, that's what prayer seems to do. Meditating helps you figure out how to take that prayer beyond asking for forgiveness and doing something proactive about it in yourself. Number 6, the sixth difference, who it's done with, prayer or meditation. So both prayer and meditation can be done with other people, or it can be done as a solo activity. But more often than not, prayer is done with others in a church, in a synagogue, or another place of worship. And that, I think, that's the way most people perceive it. I think prayer is supposed to be a personal thing. So prayer, real prayer, I think, involves meditation. All right? But prayer can be corporate. You do it in a place with other people. Meditation is often done in a quiet place within your home. And you might still meditate in a group setting with your coworkers at a yoga studio or someplace like that, but it's far less common to do. And a prayer can often be done at home alone as well. I've noticed when I meditate, I need to be alone. I need to be quiet when I meditate to focus, to bring my brain into focus. When I pray, You could pray in a group of a bunch of people. Where I came from in evangelical Christianity, you could pray with anybody, anytime, anywhere, any group of people. Prayer is theurgy, says Professor Bauer. So, that's something that can be done with other people. So, in general, praying with others allows you to form a connection with your community and do good together. And in meditation, it's the solitude that causes you to reflect on yourself, to gain a moment of silence to yourself, to spark some new ideas that'll improve yourself. And prayer is personal, says Rudy Dog. And frankly, I think the best kind of prayer is prayer that incorporates meditation. You meditate on the things you pray about. If you're asking for forgiveness, you meditate on the reasons why you're asking for forgiveness and what you can do to better yourself, so you don't do that again. Number 7, it's where your mind is marks the difference between meditation and prayer. Prayer and meditation both help calm your mind. However, when comparing prayer versus meditation, where your mind is differs. In prayer, you might choose to reflect on your past by asking for forgiveness for the things you did earlier today, or that thing last week or something, or whatever it is. You might pray for forgiveness that way. You got to look back to the past. Or you might be seeking hope for a better future. However, rarely does prayer reflect on the present, living in the moment. That's not what prayer is. That's what meditation is. Living in the moment, being in the now, being awake and in the now, and knowing that you're awake and in the now, and dwelling on how to be in the now. I think meditating would probably give you a much better ability to pray when you think about it. That's where meditation comes in, the present moment. Meditation's all about being present in the moment right now. Example, a friend is having a conversation with you in this moment. Will get all of your attention. Whereas in a prayer, you might reflect on things you shouldn't have said in the conversation and seek forgiveness for it. That's just a lame example, but it's out there. And meditation would be more likely to encourage you to ask for forgiveness during the conversation and try to make it up to your friend before one of you leaves. It's like David said in the Old Testament, I pray without ceasing. Is that the kind of man he really was? Or that's what he wanted to be, by the way. I think back to our series we did on King David. I think King David a lot of his life was an apologetic that was written in ancient times to say David was probably not somebody you would have liked being around. He was a violent, boorish, murderous man trying to sustain his monarchy in a day and age in the Middle East, where to become a Middle Eastern monarch, there were certain things you had to do to get there and maintain it. He was probably not somebody we would have liked. Yet the Bible refers to him as the sweet psalmist of Israel and the man after God's own heart, the man pursuing God's own heart. So prayer, that's a rabbit trail. Wherever you're in prayer, whenever you're in prayer, you look toward a divine entity that's going to help you out. In meditation, you look inward to find ways to better yourself. There's 3 more things here, 8, 9, and 10. And we're down to just 3 minutes left for the radio audience. So I'll just hit them quickly. It's the length of practice you put in that makes prayer and meditation different than one another. They vary in length of time. 5 minutes, 20 minutes, morning routine. Always. I can meditate in minutes. I can pray in moments. But it's how much time you spend in each, the practice of it. Number 9 is the level of difficulty. The hardest part of prayer can be, in a liturgical setting, memorizing all the words. If you're in a Christian school, you'll likely recite prayers daily. Recitation of prayers. For me, when I was in ministry, the way I taught biblical Christianity, you didn't recite prayers, you spoke from the heart. But there are some denominations that recite them. Meditation is quiet. It's from inside. It's from your mind. You can amp up the difficulty of meditation by going on a meditation retreat if you wanted to. It'd be interesting. I'd like to do that sometime. I could probably use that. All right. 10th thing that's a major difference is relation to religion. What's the difference between prayer and meditation? Their relation to religion. Of course. And those who actively pray might read stories about Jesus in the Bible or other prophets or some of the patriarchs that would pray in the Bible and how to do it. And they believe in a spirit who's going to come to them through life and all of its roller coaster of a journey. And when comparing to meditation and prayer are different in this respect. Meditation is more secular in nature. You don't need to be Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Hindu, atheist, or anything in between. It's a kind of a yoga of the mind in the sense that anyone can practice it. And you do it for yourself. It's a practical gratitude. And sometimes you need to meditate just for your own mental clarity. So prayer and meditation have a lot in common, which can make it seem like they're similar in nature. However, there's many, many differences. If you're a religious person, praying might be more aligned with how you communicate your needs. Meditation can be a good fit for anyone, whether they're religious or not. You could easily fit both of them into your daily routine if you need it. So when we ask for prayer, also meditate on those things. We're going to talk about this a little more in the Captain's Cabin. Those of you who are here from the radio station, we're out of here. So you join us in the Captain's Cabin over at my YouTube channel. In the meantime, live long and prosper. Shalom.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid Radio Program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Hey folks, this is Scotty Roberts, and this is the Intrepid Radio Broadcast. I've been broadcasting for about 20 years now, covering such topics as science, politics, the paranormal, weird science, weird world history, archaeology, and the paranormal. Everything from ghosts to cryptids to creepy things that go bump in the night. So every week I bring you 3 new episodes. Come and join my channel and also be a patron to this site. So see the details below, and we'll see you here. Hey, welcome to the Captain's Cabin. I should say the Captain's Cabin. And so, what do you think? What's on your minds tonight? I don't want to have a super long Captain's Cabin tonight. So we're not going to get into too deep of a conversation. That doesn't mean don't call in. You know what? You could change my mind. I want a short Captain's Cabin tonight. Change my mind. But because I'm just run down lately. I feel run down. And that's why I couldn't. What day did I not do a show last week? Wednesday? I just was out of sync. And so I woke up tired today. And I've been just kind of dragging my ass all day. So we'll probably have a shorter Captain's Cabin unless you guys make it a long one. So totally up to you. If you want to make it a long Captain's Cabin, you can call in and we'll talk. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. And like I said, this is the Captain's Cabin is, of course, the more informal part of the show. So you come on over and we'll talk some more. Worry will do that to you. Maybe so. I like to think I'm not much of a worrier. I think I worry more than I think I do. But I'm not I don't have a lot of anxieties, but I do have anxiety from time to time. So, anyway, did I ever do the JV stream? No, I did not. Steph Cuervo Queen asks. It was supposed to be last Wednesday, then last Thursday, and on Thursday, Jimmy told me, he says, no, we got to put it off for a little bit. So I'm not sure what it was all about, what he was thinking. Maybe he just wanted to do a stream. He hasn't really said much to me about it. He said, it's put off for the time being. He said, I'll get back to you. So don't know what it is. I know he did a live show with his paranormal reality TV. And I saw some announcements for that. And I don't know if that's what it was or it was something completely different. So we'll find out, Steph. I'll find out soon enough, I'm pretty sure. Once he gets a hold of me. And I like what Matthew Sainsbury put a Psalm of David. Lord, how many are my foes that rise up against me? Many are they who say there's no help for him in God. But you, O Lord, are my glory and a shield for me and the lifter of my head. Very true. God became the personal God along the way somewhere. And there's Sarah. She just wandered into the wings. How you doing, Sarah?
Hey, Scotty.
Good to see you.
Yep. So I did have a question because it seemed like when you were talking about the differences between prayer and meditation, do you think of meditation as secular?
Let me put it this way. Here, I'll use an example. I would say that I think our government needs to be secular, not religiously based. We're not a theocracy. Does that mean that individuals who serve in government can't have a theocratic belief? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It means that we recognize them all, but we can't rule by any one of them. So when I say that meditation is more secular, I think I'm saying it's something that is not so much focused on the model of our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. It's more of a internal, it can be spiritual, but it's more an internal, and I've always classified, by the way, meditation as spiritual. When I've talked about it in the past, it's secular in the sense that I'm not putting it in religious trappings. I'm not using religious language, and I'm using secular as opposed to religious, not spiritual. Okay. So I believe you can be secular and be spiritual. I don't think you can be secular and be religious. Yeah. Those two clash. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the way I was using the word secular is okay. It's something that is not focusing on being religious. It's focusing on looking inward and expanding one's own thinking and expanding oneself and so on.
So would you say that they're both meditation and religion are just like different types and forms of empowerment?
I
Versus
think that
empowering self or
I
putting
think that's what
something else into something else's hands, where people from day to day, they feel disenfranchised, disempowered.
right.
If I don't got the ball, who has the ball? That sort of
Right.
thing. Who has
And, like in Christianity, that's the context I can speak from, having known it. In Christianity, I would say, well, God has the ball, obviously. We're just calling on God. I would say to God at times, God, throw me a bone. I'd say, you throw me the bone. So let me gnaw on something. I need something to go by here, because all my reliance was on God. It was on Him. It was on God to do something for me. God to give me wisdom, God to grant me grace, God to grant me the serenity to not punch somebody in the face, or God heal that person or heal me, or God help me get that job, or God whatever, XYZ.
Well, I mean, I suppose that would depend on the relationship you have with God, right? God is more than just hey, can you do this for me? And I will do this.
Yes.
That's sort of a transactional thing, which
that's where I've talked about, and I kind of condemn that lucky rabbit's foot God. That when I need something from God, out comes the spiritual lucky rabbit's foot, the religious lucky rabbit's foot. And it's like, oh, God, give me that thing I need. Help me with that thing. And it's not always selfish sounding, but what was the song? A beautiful, beautiful song in... do you like animated movies?
Yeah, sure.
The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
God help the outcast.
God help the outcast.
Right.
And I think it was Bette Midler sang this song and made it very popular, but somebody else sang it. It wasn't
in the movie,
Demi Moore.
it was Demi Moore, yeah.
I don't think she sang the song. I thought I heard that somebody sang it, and they thought I was reading an article about it way back, and they said the voice fit was so perfect for Demi Moore that this voice actress got her singer got it. But it's that there's that part of the song that says, I ask for wealth, I ask for fame. And the first time I heard it, I didn't think it sounded really bad, but it said, I ask for wealth, I ask for fame, I ask for glory to shine on my name. I ask for love I can possess. I ask for God in His mercy to bless me. Now, all by themselves, so don't sound super bad. Might be, modify that a little bit. Don't go overboard. But then she goes, I ask for nothing. I can get by. I ask for others less lucky than I. And, and then the prayer goes on. And folks, if you haven't heard the song, it's so beautifully rendered.
I just looked it up. The name is Heidi Mollenhauer. Yeah.
What a beautiful voice she had. And she had that, she sounded like Demi Moore always had this gravelly voice, but she sounded like she had a bit of that quality to her singing, at least the huskiness of her voice. But it's a beautiful song. Look it up. God help the outcast. And I love the way that song of God help. God help the outcast when nobody can. But there's like a little play on words where he says, God,
show them the mercy. Yeah.
Show them the mercy
can't find on earth.
On earth. Please help my people, the poor and downtrodden. God help the outcast children of God. That's what the line went. God help the outcast.
I thought it was the question. I thought we all were children of God.
Oh, yeah. I thought we all were children of God. Yeah. There's that. And then I think the song ends with that line, doesn't it? God help the outcast children of God. Something like that, if I'm remembering it right. But there is the
difference between in the types of prayer, again, it's intention. Esmeralda was praying for someone else, and the other people were playing, more like gimme, 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 gimme,
gimme, gimme, gimme. Right.
As far as intention. So, I mean, it depends, what your relationship is to God or the higher power or collective unconscious or whatever you want to call it. Which, hey, Professor Bauer, I did have one.
Professor Bauer.
One question about that. Through prayer and meditation, it even works into the realm of resonance, of how we adjust and change our mental thought patterns and resonances. So, I mean, it ties, all of our belief systems together. So,
yes. Yeah. Do you think, when you said the word resonance there, why this has never occurred to me this way before, but do you think in Muslim call to prayer, Muslim prayer that's broadcast, if you're over in a Muslim country, you hear it broadcast 5 times a day, and in Jewish prayer, where they sing the prayer, do you think that there's a resonance factor with those?
Oh, definitely. I mean, even when you have proper recitations of the Quran, it's melodic. It's when it's read properly, there's a melodic quality to it, which, that just points out to the, the divine awesomeness in awe of, I mean, but even in non-religious and religious texts, when read, I mean, even I'm sure even in reading the Torah or, or the original languages that where these things have emanated from, that there's definitely a melodic quality. I mean, even in the secular part, you hear a good song on the radio and you're bopping your head and doing a little dance, it all affects us. Like it's now on the radio station already, my favorite radio station now, all they're playing is 24-hour Christmas music, and it's not even Thanksgiving. They're started with the
they gotta get you warmed up for Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah. I mean, like on the way home, it's like every around the same time they play the same 6 to 8 songs. It's Last Christmas or Blue Christmas or Feliz Navidad or something, and I'm trying to, and it's not like we haven't even had Thanksgiving yet, and already
we have our weird Roberts family Christmas songs. Every year we have a tradition. We put up our tree and we play old LPs, or sometimes we don't. It's usually LPs. We play on a record player. And then sometimes we'll tune in more modern tunes, and we have the music going while we're trimming the tree. And there's some songs that have come up in past years, maybe 10 years ago, that I just laughed my butt off, and so did Rainey. The little kids were there, and it was just, it was the Beavis and Butthead's Nutcracker Suite.
Oh,
and so it's playing the ding 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 ding, and as that's playing, you hear them laughing in the background. Beavis and Butthead. And he goes, Beavis, this is cool. This is cool. This is better than Ozzy. And they're like, and they're singing along with it, and it's one of the funniest little pieces you'd ever want to see if we're into banal humor such as Beavis and Butthead, which I was 30 years ago.
I'm ready for some new carols. It's like everything is like
and new carols would be nice.
Yeah.
There's something about a Christmas carol, though, that I know you're not Christian, but
I enjoy them. I mean, I enjoy Silent Night and all that.
Yes.
Little Drummer Boy and all that stuff.
There's some I really like, certain Christmas songs, and they do bring back a certain memory, a certain mood, and so I enjoy that. Professor, you've been very quiet so far. What's on your mind?
I'm enjoying the conversation, and I think that what Sarah was talking about as far as the resonance with prayer and with song and with rhythm and meter and tempo and timbre and all the things that we use to describe what we currently call music goes back millennia in Sanskrit and the ancient Hindu traditions. The whole concept of Om. And speaking, you not only had to speak the words, but you had to resonate with them. You had to have an intention behind them.
Mantras. Yeah.
Exactly. And you not only get it from sound, but you also get it from the mudras, right? And symbols and positions and movement. In my Tai Chi experience, I have found it to be what I call moving meditation, because it centers the energy that is within and around you, and it's an extremely powerful experience. Going back to what I mentioned in the chat, that prayer is theurgy. I'm not sure many people understand or know what the term or word theurgy is.
I mean, that's more relation into magic, right?
Well, it's
intention theory.
Even in the magic traditions, the Philosopher's Stone and the mystic arts and the grimoires and so forth, the most important aspect of all of the spells, the incantations, the work that any magician or sorcerer or wizard or whoever was trying to, and basically they're all alchemists, what they're trying to do requires intention. So theurgy is, and I wanted to throw that out there because it's very important delineation between prayer and meditation. Scotty, you were talking about prayer as being something where you're asking for some kind of forgiveness or some kind of leniency for something that you may have done, said, or otherwise. Mm-hmm. Well, that's one aspect of prayer. But theurgy is the act of trying to invoke spirits. And that's what you're actually doing in the traditional sense of the word prayer. You're asking for the intervention on your behalf of some entity, some spirit, some non-corporeal being on your behalf for whatever it may be, whether it's forgiveness or whether it's divine intervention for your prosperity, for some type of positive thing. So
I think it goes even simpler than that. It's, I mean, there is that, but it's also a want and desire for change. And, even in a psychological aspect, whether you're trying to, perform some sort of self-therapy, and forgiving yourself and giving yourself permission to do things and trying to break out and create new constructs and in which to, live your life and change things. If you don't like the outcome, you try to change the outcome rather than just sit there and say, oh, that's what God wants, so I guess I'm stuck here. The thing is with prayer, and I mean, not even just prayer. I mean, there's some people who believe, okay, it's all in God's hands. I have nothing to do with it. I'm just living out the ride, which is not true. Because we have our part that we have to play, and God and the divine and the universe has its part to play, and it has to be in conjunction. And prayer and meditation, that it's part of that connection, because because it affects mind, body, and spirit. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you ask the whole question of destiny, right? Predestined. Sure. Because that comes up a number of times in the Western Christianity model, is that and George Carlin had that famous line is, well, if God's going to do his will anyway, then why bother asking him?
Right.
Because he's already made a decision. So you're either in the flow with whatever the intention and original definition that God gave you, or you're not. So I really think that
I think that really undercuts the ability of adaptability. There's always going to be the adaptability. I mean, some people would be like, okay, God's going to tell me, okay, this is what I'm going to do with my life. You're going to be, if you're in the medieval world, a pig farmer all your life, or you're going to become king. It's like, okay, if I know I'm going to become this, can I become more than that? It would are we more than the sum of our parts? Which, being as human beings, I like to think, we are, more than just what we've been cobbled together with.
Well, I mean, and then you could look at some of the stories in the Bible, and again, and even in the Quran for that matter. There are those who were who came to do specific tasks to fulfill certain roles. I recently listened to a Manly P. Hall lecture on Muhammad, and there was a number of things that he talked about as far as Muhammad's history and where he came from. And it wasn't until he was in his later years that he had the experience with the angel. I think it was Angel Michael.
I think it was Gabriel.
Or was it Gabriel?
Yeah.
And but prior to that, he had gone through a whole shitload of different experiences that
Right.
everything from being dirt poor to marrying wealth. And it was only later in life that he had the experience, which eventually became Islam and the Quran. And he questioned apparently a number of times throughout that experience, what am I here for? Why am I doing this? Why am I experiencing these things?
Right.
So you look at that and go, well, was he predestined by some other entity to fulfill his role to create this belief system? Or was it something that organically happened, as you were talking about, Sarah, where he wanted, and he talks about apparently his desire to be more, to find a way to give to humanity, so that the poverty and the all of the challenge that he saw of other people in his life before having this experience with Gabriel, he wanted to change the world so that would go away. So was that his intention? Was it something that he was divinely orchestrated to do? Or was it something that it was a result of his own desire and intention to make a better world?
I mean, I hate to say it, but only God would know the answer to that.
Right. Well,
but I mean, as far as, you know, having life experiences, and everybody has their own life experiences, it's also how we relate to people as well. You know, most of the major religions, they're underdog stories. If you look at Moses, if you look at Jesus, if you look at Muhammad, they're all pretty much underdog stories. And we as human beings always seem to naturally want to, you know, root for the underdog, because those are the ones that are relatable, right? Because they come mainly from cultures that are being oppressed by a group, or, you know, things are not going their way. You know, there's foreign occupation. They're fighting for resources, all this stuff. I mean, that's how you end up with kind of the rise of messianic culture of, you know, somebody's going to come save me from this. You know?
Well, in that regard, Hitler was a very suppressed and underserved childhood. And he had to fight to finally get to where he was. And he had a complex that, I mean, you could compare it in a lot of ways to Jesus and to Muhammad and to all these other religious leaders. But he had a different outcome in the end. But during a period of time, he achieved what he desired to do, and is now known. And, you know, he's like the main villain of the last 100 years, but you look at Mao and Stalin and Lenin and all these guys, they were much worse than Hitler was. But Hitler's the one who's,
He
you know,
took
held
that
up
right.
as
Yeah.
the,
I
as
mean,
the
he was
big
much
bad
more
guy.
charismatic, and it's like, you know, we're still feeling the ripples from that trauma. You know?
Sure we are.
Yeah. So I mean, it's
Well, yeah, but we're feeling that in the Western world. But both the Russian civilization and the Chinese civilization have been very closed off, and yet they suffered much worse than the Western civilization did. But they are still a very secluded, both very secluded societies. Had they been more integrated into what we call our Western civilization, it might have been very different. So I don't know. It seems to me there's a lot of questions that keep getting ignored or not asked. And we end up focusing on, a minute few who we say, had the big impact. And I'm going, well, yeah, there's been a big impact. And for some reason, people hold on to this stuff for whatever reason. I mean, you could take the whole Jewish history as another example.
Yeah, I know people who are still bitter about the Crusades.
Yeah,
sure.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, I'm like, even in my head, I'm like, can we get over this now? I mean,
Right.
it happened. I mean, acknowledge that it happened, but it's like they act like it's happened, just a few generations ago when it's been, thousands of years.
1,100 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but
yeah, and then you have institutions like the Catholic Church. And I was thinking about this the other night, and it was I thought, well, I need to go explore this some more. You know how what we're told is the end of the Roman Empire was around 500 AD, right? And up until that time, the Romans, I mean, basically our entire Western civilization is based on the Roman civilization, the laws, the language, the conduct, all of those things are basically Roman constructs. But what's interesting is that at the fall of the Roman civilization, the Roman Empire, at the same time was the rise of the Roman Catholic system. So you had Constantine in, the early 300s, 325, somewhere around in there. He's getting his act together, organizing, this Christianity thing. In the meantime, the Roman Empire is falling apart. But then he comes up with this whole construct of popes. And the next thing we know, for the next 1,000 years, this papal structure, through a ton of pontification, pun intended, they took over. And we essentially we've been under this rule of this Roman Catholic theology for the last 1,500 years. And and I started thinking about that, and I thought, well, we saw the fall of the Roman Empire, but then the rise of the Roman Catholic belief system. So did Rome really die? Did it really get extinguished? Or was it just passed on through another theology and belief system?
Yeah, I mean, we still use Roman numerals.
Right.
Well, we're still, we even learned that when I was in seminary, that we are still part of the Roman Empire. We're the remnants of the Roman Empire. And they were talking about that in prophetic terms. And you've probably heard all of this, Professor, when you were in ministry. In prophetic terms, it was which was the king that David or Daniel interpreted for. We saw the statue with the gold head and the silver chest, and then all the way down to the clay feet.
No.
And that was a symbol or a prophetic symbol of all the different great empires of the world. And that the clay feet was something that crumbled but was still there. It was supposed to be like, this is where we are now. Oops. I accidentally hit that. Talking that we're still in the midst of or the end of the Roman Empire. And John says, John Piper says no. Siddhartha, and then he said no. Was that recent? Did I miss when that came in? Yeah, about a minute ago. Was that to something being said now?
You are
or to somebody in the chat room he was responding?
I think Nebuchadnezzar that may have been.
He was the guy who had the dream. It wasn't Belshazzar. He had the handwriting on the walls. It was Nebuchadnezzar who had the dream of the statue.
But I think it's fascinating when you look at what we have as the historical stories of the various rulers and emperors and kings and folks that reigned over certain civilizations, over certain periods of time, over certain regions. A lot of them, they embellished their own story by saying, they came from this or they came from that, or they had a vision, or they were destined to be this and that, and so on and so forth. And there's just a lot of commonality across them. And I think that whatever term they used for meditation and prayer back then, that there was a lot of that kind of activity going on. Going back to what I was talking about as far as the term theurgy, they all are invoking some divinity, some spiritual, non-corporeal being on their behalf to achieve their greatness, to conquer their foes, to rule over a kingdom. And so there's a whole lot of that going on in just about every story.
Yeah, it's like you know a guy who can get this stuff done.
Yeah, I know a guy, right?
Yeah, I know a guy. And a lot of it, if you look at it in a very, very basic level, it's repetitive. It's like you were talking earlier about, the papal system. It's maintaining those patriarchal hierarchies, which, you see reflected in families.
Mm-hmm.
And then, within the fights, the same that happen within the families, where everything splits off, and who's gonna lead, this bunch of kooky kids. So
yeah, these out of control siblings, which just can't seem to get along,
right?
And they've all got to have a piece of whatever mom and dad put together, or dad or whoever. And it seems to be a nature and a habit of our human condition, because throughout all the stories, even going back to the Sanskrit and the Hindus and even in Buddhism, in Taoism, there's a lot of conflict because of familial problems. There's just people that just don't get along with each other, and they start, causing trouble among the rest of the family, and then that spills off into the people that they get to follow them. And it's like, okay, well, how is that any different than what's going on today?
Well, anytime there's a relationship, there's always going to be conflict. There's even conflict within self, right, Scotty? I mean,
yes,
everybody has it. I have it. You
Sure.
have it. I mean,
as far as we all do.
Conflict within self, it's the struggle between like the Jungian shadow self. And then you're trying to reconcile and learn how to get along, get along with me and my 10 voices. But,
you only have 10?
There's only 10 in there, Sarah?
Yeah.
And then, again, with prayer and meditation, it's attempt to sort of reconcile and self-therapize. So on trying to, deal and heal and do whatever we need to do to survive. It's part of survival. Just as we need stories to survive, just as we need, pay attention to what's around us, think about the future. I mean, eat, drink, and be merry, all the things that are necessary for survival.
Well, it makes you wonder, why can't we all just get along? And
you hate to say that, but
at the end of the day,
put it out there.
It's because everybody's got their own proclivities, preferences, biases, peccadillos.
And everybody thinks that they're right, that their way is the right way.
They're right for themselves at the time that they think about whatever it is that they have a preference to. But the problem, in my opinion, is there's not enough thinking going on. There's not enough self-examination going on about, well, why do I like that? Why do I adhere to this, or I resonate with that? And I think that in a lot of cases, people are going to find out when they start taking a closer look at their own demons, their own devils, their own their 10 different personalities that are going on and fighting within their own existence, that they're going to find that a lot of it was not something that they chose. It was something that was given to them. And that particularly relates to, the religions. The belief systems have put a whole bunch of crap on people and their minds. And it's caused a bunch of consternation and chaos in the cranium. Yeah, because you're told that you're supposed to believe this because of this, that, and something else. And you go, okay. And I did that when I was in my ministry. I fell
Same.
hard for that stuff. And then I started asking questions because the more experiences I had, the more questions I had. The more questions I had, the less answers I got. And I kept getting at the end the singular answer, which is you just need to believe and have faith. It's like that answer doesn't work for me anymore.
Yeah.
And that's
Right?
the point
Same
of the
here.
whole journey of going down the rabbit hole. You keep digging and digging and digging
Right.
until you,
Right.
and then you're surrounded by so many questions that then you're forced to choose what questions are important to me, right? Because you can't go in every direction. So then because you have to conserve energy, right? Otherwise you'd.
Yep.
You got to start at the basics, which is, what is it that I experience? And this goes back to my, here you go, Sarah, Materium and Ethereum construct in Informatica. You've got to start with the information that you work with, that you have, before you apply it to whatever it is you are examining. Why do I think the way I do? Why do I feel the way I do? Do I really feel? Is what I'm feeling actually real for me, or is it because somebody told me that's how I'm supposed to feel, or they told me that's how I'm supposed to think?
How badly did our parents screw us up?
Big time.
And
right?
it's kind of funny.
Their parents and the parents before them,
and
the whole lineage.
Funny. My parents didn't screw me up. They didn't even get me into the religion that I chose. It was interesting, and I think this might answer to some of this, what you're talking about, is that I always seemed to have, even as a little kid, a desire to know who God was. Now, I don't know where that came from because we were not a religious family. We didn't go to church. I was baptized into the Ukrainian Orthodox Church when I was 5 because my stepdad was Ukrainian and Ukrainian Orthodox. And he had us all baptized into it. But we didn't go to church, and I don't remember gaining any understanding of who God was when I was 5. I had no understanding of any of that. I had no understanding of what Easter was all about, meaning Jesus on the cross and so on. But somewhere along the way, by the time I was in 3rd or 4th or 5th grade, I remember believing the basics of Christianity. Jesus died for your sins, and you'll go to hell if you don't accept him as your savior, or believe in him. And I don't know where that came from because it wasn't taught in my family, but I always had a very strong draw to it. Then when I was 11 and I had my Baptist, conservative Baptist fundamentalist conversion born again experience at 11, it was a perfect fit because I already believed some of that stuff, but not from what I was raised in. So is there... Why do I say that I think that would fit into what some of what we believe? It was so obscure even when I said it. I wasn't quite sure if I could make the connection here. But
let's see if I can.
All right.
So, both of those religions were exactly what you needed at that time, right? And of course, your thoughts and feelings, they've evolved and changed. So, if the first didn't work, then you found the second. On the second, then you find the third or the fourth, and it's an ongoing process, part of growth. I mean, who knows from now if I may grow out of my own religion and just become really more secular, which I hope I don't, because I think I have a pretty good thing going. Well, some days more so than others, but
yeah.
I mean just
today I'm a little
going
more
on in my life right now. I mean, I'm like super stressed out at work and everything, and home life, and there's always something going on, and it's reached to the point where I'm manifesting anxiety dreams.
Oh, great!
So it's like, okay, yeah, I can recognize where it's coming from, based on, because I know myself. It's that whole knowledge. It's what Professor Barr was saying. The whole knowledge of self.
Or as Rex said in Toy Story, great, now I have guilt. So, yeah. That's what religion does for us.
So, I mean, we're all just, through our experience, we're piecing life together. And we keep what works and we throw out what doesn't. And then sometimes if we later evolve, we may pull back something else that we threw away before and we're able to integrate. We choose what we want to integrate into our lives and what we choose to leave out.
I think as the older we get, with the more experiences we have, the more understanding of resonance and harmony and disharmony we experience. We get more in tune with that which resonates with us and that which doesn't. So that to me is one of the great things of time and experience, because the more you experience, the more you understand what it is that, like I was saying, you resonate with or you don't resonate with. And I think one of the big reveals in life is experiencing things that we thought we resonated with that we really didn't. There's resonance can be forced, and disharmony can be masked as resonance or as harmony. And the more experiences we have, the more opportunities we have to understand those things, to experience them, and then find out that, wow, I used to believe that, but now that I have more information and more experience with it, I now don't have the same feeling or experience or understanding, and because of the knowledge that you have. So to me, you have to have experience before you have knowledge. But once you have knowledge, then you can gain understanding. Once you have understanding, then you can gain wisdom. And then once you have wisdom, you can move on to what we refer to as enlightenment, which to me is the ultimate in cosmic resonance, if you will.
Let me ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a cross or a form of cross that you're wearing around your neck?
No, it's actually a custom-made piece that Jeff Harmon made for me.
Oh, I see. Now that you're moving it, I can see that it's not a cross. It looks like a jeweled cross of some kind.
Well, it's a hessonite on the top and a yellow sapphire on the bottom.
Oh, that's kind of neat. And Jeff Harmon made that, huh?
Yeah, he does. Cool. And it's based on the astrology of my birth chart.
Oh,
cool. These are two stones that are designed to both absorb positive energy and to protect me from negative energy, from energies that I base again on my birth chart, which is sidereal, not Western tropical astrology, but so where I was born at the time I was born, the energies and the frequencies that existed at that time and place, Jeff does his charts about, what were the energies of the time of birth and where you were at, and then what stones have resonant frequencies inherent in them that are good for you. So he made this a couple of years ago, and I wear it all the time. It does kind of look like a cross, but
it was just from, it looks this big on the screen.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at that and I thought,
Scotty's trying to catch you out.
I was just going to ask. So, Professor, why do you wear a cross? Well, there went my questioning.
Yep.
And I thought there might be an interesting reason why you wore a cross, but now since it's not a cross, never mind. Never mind.
Like one, yeah.
So, Josh Kemp grew up in the Nazarene Church, then Southern Baptist. He says, now I've been studying Catholicism. That seems almost backwards. It seems to me that there's more people that leave Catholicism studying other denominations than the other way around. But I have heard of a few that go back and study what they call true Catholicism. So,
well, I started in the Pentecostal version of Christianity, which is, extreme and deep.
It's an extreme Catholicism.
And then went went from there to Baptist.
Yeah.
Because there was some crazy stuff, the speaking in tongues, laying on of hands, healing the sick, casting out demons, all that stuff. I saw that and I went, wow, this is pretty wild.
Yeah.
Give me some good definitions of this, which the answers didn't resonate with me. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go try the other side of this Christianity, which uses the same book,
dark side of Christianity,
but reads it completely different. And it only took me about 6 months in there to go, okay, well, there's a whole nother boatload of issues going on in this particular version of Christianity. And that's when I peeled off and started looking at Hinduism and Buddhism, and eventually ended up as a Taoist.
Nice. I look at what John Piper said, and I just want to go, how do you solve a problem like John Piper? I've even heard him singing in the Abbey. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, everybody knows what that movie was. So John, do you sing in the Abbey? So I don't know. Are you still in a monastic order, or are you apart from the monastic order? I would think he's apart.
Twirling around on hilltops.
Yeah, something like that. So LOL, he says. So yes.
So I mean, even the Amish have their own version of, what do they call it, Weltanschauung or something, where they experience the young Amish experience the outworld, and then they decide if they want to come back to
right,
go back to their family. The whole
you're going out among the English, and so what did somebody say? Who would make the Amish would make the best? What? It was something to do with politics.
Donuts, bread, pretty much everything.
Peanut butter. No, it was like they would make the best legislators, or they would make the best, not legislators, because it wasn't religiously based. It was simplicity, common sense based. Now I can't think of what it was, so it doesn't make any difference. It sounds like something Jason would have told me, but I might be wrong about that.
Yeah, so. I thought it might have been a theocracy, but I mean, again, when it comes to religion and that sort of stuff, you have to determine and allow how much that's going to influence your life and how you legislate. So,
John Piper is an oblate, if that's how you say that, oblate, in France, in the Benedictine order. All right. Cool.
I'd love to pick his brain. Why can't it
ask? Do Benedictines? Do you have football teams? It's like the Benedictines against the
Anglicans.
The Anglicans and so on. So,
can we get him to call in?
Yeah, John's called in before. John, if you want to call in, call in. We got 9 minutes left of this show, so call in if you got a couple minutes. So, yeah, he's called in before. We've talked before. And I know John from the Renaissance Festival. He was out there for years.
So you got some actual friars.
Yes. Oh, how? You just connect John. Here it is. Here's the link. Copied it. Paste it. Just paste that link into your browser and you'll get right in here. So
might be on his phone.
Oh, if you're on your phone, well, he can see the chat though.
He might be on a browser.
No. Rumspringa? I have no idea.
Yeah, well, Rumspringa, that's right. I was thinking.
There you go.
Wrong word. So
sounds like a concoction you make with Captain Morgan.
So what do you guys?
Boom.
Hello.
There's John. How you doing, brother?
Not so badly.
Right on.
So, no, I'm always fascinated with what you get into, Scotty, because some of the stuff you're just like, it's like cool, but I'm not your normal Catholic either. So,
oh, right, right.
Yeah, I got kicked out of theology for writing papers about why women should be priests.
Oh, shame on you.
Shame on me, yes. So, which is really ironic because 30 years later, my daughter writes the same paper. on her own.
Nice.
Like, yes. So anyway, I've been oblate, been there for about 8 years.
What is an oblate?
I was just going to ask
Okay.
you that.
When you think of them in the Middle Ages, they were like the lay brothers, the people on the outside of the wall.
Okay.
The farmers, the workers, the guys that provided for the
Crushed the grapes.
crushing the grapes. Not in the Benedict. Benedictine is a great liqueur. Oh boy. But yeah. No, it's there's. I don't know if you knew this, Scotty, but there's the world's largest religious congregation of Christian men up at St. John's University in Abbey.
You know, I knew St. John's was big here in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how big.
Yeah.
So, the largest.
Yeah. No, they keep the international Benedictines keep scalping our abbot to go and work in Rome. So, yeah.
Good night, Matthew Sainsbury, by the way. Good to have you here tonight. And he says good night to everybody.
Yeah.
So how is the Benedictine order different from the main Catholic church system?
Okay. Basically, the Benedictines were the ones that get all the blame and praise for the Middle Ages, pretty much. You know.
So is that different than the Jesuits?
Oh yeah, the Jesuits they came along after the Reformation, and they're like the Jesuits like to think of them as more Catholic than Catholic, because they would basically they were the guys that we hear about the Inquisition. That's where they are with the Spanish Jesuits.
Hey, Torquemada, what does he say?
Whoa. So beware of the Spanish Inquisition. They're all Jesuits.
Okay.
So my understanding is that the Jesuits are the ones that have somehow secreted off and have a whole bunch of sacred knowledge that is different from the rest of the church, and they've spun off a bunch of leaders in various ways and run things in the background. Is that right? Or
right. Yeah, that makes the current pope he's a Jesuit. So
that's
but he's also a scientist. That's the whole thing. I have to.
That's an interesting mix.
Yeah. So he's a professor of science, chemistry, I believe. Where he came out of all that. So interesting guy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about, and we've only got a couple of minutes left, and this has nothing to do with anything very deep, other than I used to wear that ring on my finger, the big round. Was on this. Where did I wear it? This hand, and it was that big round one, and it was a Benedictine ring. And it had the cross with all the letters going around it.
Right.
Or an abbreviation for a prayer.
It's an abbreviation of a Latin prayer, which I'm not remembering right now. But basically, it's the first words that you say for an exorcism.
And it was supposed to be a ring of protection.
Right.
Now, something very interesting. I don't know if you've heard me tell this story, so I'll give the very abbreviated. I had an old Ouija board in the house. And it wasn't in the house, it was out in the garage. Just when I found it at a sale, and I bought it. And I thought it was kind of cool. It was probably about 50 years old. And it sits in a box out there. And one day, last fall, I find it out in the yard. And I said, who was messing with the Ouija board? Kids are like, I don't even know what's a Ouija board. And my wife said, no, I didn't touch it. It was behind the door in the garage when you'd open the side door. And I found it. And then nobody was responsible for that. Okay, somebody chucked it out in the yard, I thought. It's about 30 feet from the door of the garage in the side yard. And so I put it away. And the next day or two, I had this Benedictine ring that the only time I ever took it off was to wash my hands because I didn't like getting soapy water under it. And it couldn't fall down the sink because there was a drain thing in there. You couldn't do it, and it's too big. And it just disappeared. And it has never shown up again. And we thought, now, is that something weird? Or am I going to find it when well, it's like, what was the thing I just mentioned I found under the carpet? I pulled up the carpet, and when I pulled up all the nails, something that had been missing I found. It wasn't that ring. It was something else. What the heck?
That was in the old house, right? It's not in the current.
No, that was this house.
Oh, it's this one?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's probably around somewhere.
I'm thinking it's around somewhere, but totally disappeared. Months and months ago now.
No, I usually wear a medal. I don't even remember what happened to it right now, but I'm going to show you. Yep, I got one of those. So,
yeah.
It's not a big deal. It's just, frankly, guys, it's not magic. It's
not magic.
That makes me remind myself that God's grace is within me and saves me. And whatever God's grace is, between what we think of God transitions into some, we constructed God ourselves, humankind.
Yeah.
So that we can try to understand what's happening with that. There's this great cosmic consciousness of love that is outside of time and space, outside of beginnings and ends. I don't know. At that point, I kind of lose it because I just like, what was there before the beginning of, what's going to be after the eternal,
There you go. Yeah.
At that point,
contained.
Yikes.
So.
Anyway.
Jason, before we're out of here, what's on your mind?
He called in to confess his sins.
Yes. It's been,
and he's only got 30 seconds worth of sins. So,
Yeah, you caught me there. That's exactly what it was. No,
don't feel compelled to share any of that cold weather. I'm telling you guys.
I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. It's been pleasant. Today was in the 50s, and
that's what we had yesterday. So
yeah, but what the stuff that's weighing on my mind doesn't even have anything to do with the topic. I'm more joined in because that's why I made my little joke. The link popped up there in the chat after you said, sounds like something Jason would have told me, and I was just like,
yes.
Somebody used my name in vain. No, my big thing, right? Beetlejuice. No, the big thing that weighs on my mind right now is actually, it's stupid because it's completely off topic, but it's one of those things that just sticks in my. And it's local politics and apathy.
The apathy applied to local politics. Yeah.
Well, from the citizenry. We had a big vote to do a $95 million project of an indoor turf and a pool facility, which in of itself is not a bad thing at all. We're a city of 60,000 people, and 3,552 people turned out to vote.
Nice. So 57,000 did not.
Right. And so you have massive amounts of money and what is going to be done with that money and how it's going to impact everyone around us in town because of taxes, et cetera, being decided by,
by 1/20th of the population. And
right.
The sad thing is that the other 57,000 will be complaining about it in a year. So.
Well, and it's just one of those things. You look at it, and our city government does nothing, at least that's perceivable, to try to improve, that percentage, to try to get people off their duffs and to get out there and do something and, speak with their vote. And things like that. They'll just be like, oh yeah, well, it's sad that there wasn't as much of a turnout as we would have liked, but hey, we got a 2-to-1 ratio as far as votes for the project, so I think that's pretty telling. And it's a good thing that the city decided to invest in itself. It's like, no, most everybody else in the city is going to work, going to school, doing the things they have to do in everyday life just to exist, and they're absorbed in their own microcosm. And it's like the old adage, or the old analogy, or not analogy, but the old statement about the frogs in the pot of water, and you slowly raise the temperature, and they don't notice, and they don't notice, and they don't notice until it's too late. And like, people don't notice a couple of cents here, 10, 15 cents there, over the big picture of things, until all of a sudden they're sitting there being like, all right, get the torches and the pitchforks, because last time I checked, taxation is theft.
Right.
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And you get people who are more interested in looking good and getting the sound bite than actually looking at the causation and trying to do something productive about it. I'm friends with one of the council members, and I was like, that was just appalling. The turnout was so abysmal. And she's like, I'm really mad about it. And I'm like, the city's got to do something better about it. They've got to get out there and do something. When's the last time anybody on the council actually walked through their ward and talked with people other than on their street, right? Or within their own soundbite bubble? When did they go further off of their block to actually talk to people and look at how people are living and hear their concerns? And a bunch of them have run unopposed, which doesn't mean that everybody loves you. No, that means that nobody else thinks that they'll get it most of the time, and so they don't try. She's like, well, I just don't know what to do. I was like, well, I don't know. Maybe you could start off by being the first person on the council who goes to the old Google box and types in, how do I increase voter turnout? Like, don't sit there and say, I don't know. Say, I don't know, and I'm going to look into this and actually go look into it.
Great Chat GPT question right there.
Yes. Sarah, you were going to say something?
No, it wouldn't.
Yeah, put it out there, Jason.
Right,
Sarah, were you going to say something in the middle of all this somewhere?
Well, I mean, I was just going to say that it does tie into the topic, because it sounds like, there's a lack of balance in terms of mindfulness and self-awareness, right?
Actually, yeah. No, that's a perfect thing.
So
mindfulness and self-awareness.
And I think, what is also a deterrent is, being engaged but not losing yourself into it,
right.
It's that whole energy thing again, how much energy you're going to put into
there's
it. I almost didn't, we had local elections here, and I almost didn't vote, but said, no, I went, I'll go and do it,
All right, good. I was going to sit here on my stool.
I think there's a different kind of disengagement as well, though. And I don't want to open up a deeper topic because I'm ready to be done for tonight, but
5-hour show in honor of Uncle Dave.
There's a disengagement that can be housed in this. Many times when I see Joe Biden or the Biden administration, I want to look at people and go, 86 million votes. That's
what's the thing, man? Come on.
That was a disengagement, I think, of people of being responsible about the vote.
Well, there's a whole nother story going on there.
And
that 86 million,
I believe that too. And
it was definitely not there. I mean, that was fabricated from
I agree.
Bottom up.
Well, I mean, even in someone in my case, I tend to vote different than most of the people in my area. And in this past election, I was surprised that, hey, my side actually, well, not my side, but I mean, my views actually won. versus what they've been for the past, 10, 15 years. And it was a surprise to me because, and I always felt like my vote didn't count, because for every vote that I have, there's going to be at least 2 or 3 people who are going to vote in the opposite direction.
Right.
So,
yeah. Right. And I actually, I understand
Uncle
that
John
mindset.
is here.
I don't ascribe to it, but I understand how someone can get to that point. But then at the end of the day, when I've had conversations with people who have that same kind of outlook of, well, my vote doesn't matter. It's like, yeah, but you know what? It's your God-given right. It's in the Constitution. People have bled and died for it. I have sat in the talk where they're trying to scrounge together the people to go pull security at a voting booth in the third world shithole, and the people, and then later on that day go out and work with those people, and they're proud that their thumb is purple and they got the opportunity to actually vote. And here we piss it down our legs. So, don't take that mentality. Go and vote just because you can. Even if the person you're voting for or against is, or in like at the city level with a ward, right? They're running unopposed. Go in there and write Skeletor in for all I care. Go out there and do it. What
happens when Skeletor wins?
Well, wait, and that's actually so. I
mean, there's cases where cats and dogs and
right,
5-year-olds,
exactly. And I actually I tried to start a movement. So the council member for Ward 6 in our city is he's very good at rubbing people the wrong way and talking down and sarcastically to people and dismissively and things like that.
But got voted in again, I'll bet.
Yeah, he did, because he ran unopposed. And so like I was taken to every single like Facebook page for town, and I was like, hey, remember when your vote comes around, and I do, you've seen the Skeletor memes where like he says something horrible and then he's like, until next time.
Yes.
So I was like, I had like a whole folder full of those things, and I was just spamming pages with it, hoping and praying that exact thing would happen, because it sends a message, is what it does. But you can't get people to take their lunch break when open voting is from 7 a.m. to 1900 hours, 7 p.m. It's and like, okay, so you got a lunch break, right? Literally, I was in and out.
I think Election Day should be a national holiday.
I think it should as well. I honestly, when it comes to local elections, I think with some of these things, depending on how it's done, let's spread it over 2 days, especially when you're looking at millions upon millions upon millions of dollars that are going to be spent over however long, that is going to come from increases in taxes, raising our mill rates for property taxes, all of these things. It's like, this is serious, guys, and maybe we should give it a little bit more time. And
I think that legislation and voting should be handled like terms and conditions on, doing an app or buying a phone or doing a computer, and it should be tied to the security that you have on your phone right now with your bank account as your identity. You don't have to have the bank account, but my point is that if you can do your banking on your phone, if you can put your phone on something without even signing into your bank app and make a payment that comes from your secure system, then why can't all these different things that come up, whether it's local or state or even federal elections, why can't there's a T's and C's. Here's what the legislation is. Whether you read it or not, you go down to the bottom and you hit that I have read and I accept what's going on here, and here's my vote. The complexity of our voting system is broken, and it causes there's too much of it going on, which to your point, Jason, is one of the reasons people don't get involved is because there's either too much of it or it's too complex, and it's you've got a day in which to do this.
Well, and nobody spends and takes the time on a daily basis or even a weekly basis to go research the topics. I mean,
well, that's my point.
Even if you took a day to research,
turn them into T's and C's,
ahead.
right? Just like that, you may not read all the Apple. What was it? Moses was the first one to download a tablet and not read the terms and conditions. Yeah.
There's
I was thinking of these 15
the day.
10 commandments.
Yes.
I mean, they could at least try to incentivize. If you said if you go ahead and vote, we'll take like 1% off of your taxes. That would get people to do it.
That's like buying a vote, though.
That's called bribery.
It's only bribing if you vote a certain way. Now, if you walk into the polling center and, I don't know, retinal scan, you've got a chip inserted in your neck, you scan your ID card, whatever method we want to go with from some post-apocalyptic movie. If you walk in there and it scans you and it's like, all right, you voted, you get 1% off, that's not going for a project or against a project or for a person or against a person. That's just those that you showed up. So
it's worth making a proposal.
Might be.
And on that note, we got to end the show tonight.
Thank you for letting me vent.
There's what's that?
Thank you for letting me vent.
It was a good vent.
You threw in
all kinds of big
in the next election.
So separation of church and state. Yeah.
Yes.
The therapy bill comes later.
Yes. Everybody
Sent to the VA.
That's here tonight, thank you for being part of the conversation. And full house almost here. And so I'm going to do what I normally do and let you all go one by one. Uncle John is here, but I haven't seen him yet. So Uncle John. Oh, there you are.
Not feeling presentable. I have COVID.
Oh, wonderful.
Man.
Well, the beautiful thing is this too shall pass. So
I stopped in because you needed a place card.
Yes. Well, I hope you're doing okay and feeling better soon.
Oh, yeah.
I had it and it knocked me on my butt for a couple days, and then I was like, I'm okay.
Well, you guys all know that it's not COVID. It's another flu bug. The COVID crap is long gone and over.
Yeah.
Just another trip through the COVIDium.
Yeah. I mean, this whole narrative is worn itself out.
It has. I think they were looking for a way to not have to have Joe Biden go out and campaign again. So, I'm sorry. Yes.
Are we still on Wednesday and Friday?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
We're on Wednesday and Friday, and
didn't know with the holiday.
So. Yeah, Thanksgiving's Thursday, so yeah, we'll still
no
be
rest
on.
For the wicked.
The only way I won't be on is if something catastrophic comes up, and I'm just like not doing a show today. So, yes, we'll be here on Wednesday and Friday this week. So, all of you that were listening tonight, thanks for being here. And all of you guys, I'm going to just kind of let you go one by one. Uncle John, thanks for being here. Good to hear from you. I hope you feel better soon.
Oh, I will be.
All right, brother. We'll talk soon. And Jason, good to have you, brother. I'm just taking you in order here as you appear on my screen.
Go vote, Jason.
That's right.
I already did.
Yes.
Drag your neighbors.
Vote early, vote often.
That's right. See you later, brother. John, good to see you. Glad you could make it in.
See you, John.
And of course, Professor Bauer, good to have you as always.
Thanks for letting me in and making noise. I appreciate it. I don't get out much, so this is the only chance I get to come in and stir stuff up. So there you go.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
All
you guys
right.
have a
Thanks
great
for being here. And Sarah, as always, good to have you here.
All right. Thanks, Scotty.
And we'll see you on Wednesday.
Probably.
All right. Have a good night. And everybody else, thanks for being here. Thanks for giving me your time. Means a lot to me that you showed up. And we'll be back on Wednesday. So live long and prosper and shalom.